All right, geometry crew, we're starting a new chapter, which is all about congruent triangles. And the first section is about congruent figures. All right, and this is fairly simple, okay? Congruent figures, they have the same size and the same shape, all right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be triangles. I mean, we're going to be focusing on triangles a lot. But any polygon, any congruent polygons, they're going to have congruent corresponding parts. So basically, they're matching sides and angles, okay? And all of the matching sides and angles will be congruent, okay? Now, we need to be very careful when we list our congruency statements, okay? And in this example here, I drew two triangles, all right? Triangle ABC and triangle DEF. And we have to be very careful when we name our congruency statement. So if I want to say that these two triangles are congruent, I would start by saying, and I can list the first triangle any way I want. So we'll just say ABC. So triangle ABC is congruent to, now, this is where we have to be careful. Notice I started at A, I went to B, and then up to C to name the first one. So I started at this angle that has one dash, then I went to this angle that has two dashes, and then that angle that has three. So when I name this one, I have to do it the exact same way. 1 dash, 2 dash, 3. So this would be triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EFD. All right? And what they're focusing on in this chapter is making sure we know how to list our congruent corresponding parts, okay? So when we list our congruent corresponding parts, once I have my congruency statement, I don't even really need to look at my diagram anymore, all right? Because these letters are written in the correct order. So when I list my corresponding sides, all right, I could say side AB is congruent to, remember, I picked the first two letters, side AB. That's congruent to side EF. And then I can do side BC is congruent to side FD. I'm not even looking at the picture up here. I'm just looking at my statement. And then for the last side, I could say side AC is congruent to side ED. All right? And now, when I list my corresponding angles that are congruent, A is congruent to E. Angle B is congruent to angle F. And angle C is congruent to angle D. All right, so we need to make sure that we list all of our letters in the correct order, all right? And now, we know that if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then the third angles in both triangles must be congruent. That's called the third angles theorem, all right? And you can take a look at that. That's on the notes. But I wanted to do just a couple really easy examples, all right? So what they like to do in this section, they give you a congruency statement. So triangle QXR is congruent to triangle NYC. And then they ask you, okay, so, or they give you QX would be congruent to, and then you have to come up with the second part. All right, well, QX are the first two letters, so the first two letters over here would be NY. All right, very simple. Or maybe they say angle Y is congruent to, and then what would this be? Well, angle Y is the second one listed here, so the second one would be angle X. All right, and that's mostly what you're doing in the homework. You're just matching up the letters and saying which sides or which angles are congruent. All right, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a triangle. All right, it could be a quadrilateral. Like for one of them, they say BAND is congruent to LUCK. All right, and then they ask you like angle U. This is congruent to, well, angle U is the second letter, so over here it would be angle A. All right, or then they might say DB. All right, side length DB, that's last letter to first letter, so over here it would be KL. All right, and then they might even throw in all four letters. N, D, B, A is congruent to, well, they did third letter, last letter, first letter, second letter. So over here it would be C, K, L, U. All right, so it's actually really easy. All right, so just make sure that you're matching up the letters correctly. And take a look at the notes as well that I posted. All right, thanks.